So for those of you who don't know, I am a self-taught developer, and I've been working in the industry about 2 to 3 years, depending on if you count just development time or not. But so I'm still fairly new, but I'm doing quite well for myself, if I had to say. And one of the more common questions I get is, how do I become a self-taught developer? What are the things that you would tell yourself, the steps, the guides, the sort of tips and tricks, if you will, as the kids like to say, of how to become a self-taught developer. And so today I'm going to give you my top 10. And if you're a traditional developer, really I think we're all self-taught developers at the end of the day, even if you've gone and got a computer science degree, because oftentimes you're going to have to be a self-taught developer to succeed in this world. Learning doesn't stop at the boot camp. Learning doesn't stop at college. And so these are my 10 tips specifically for self-taught developers, but I think you can apply it for any developer and be very successful with them. And if you're looking at how to sort of break into the industry, I am 300 pages in this 700 piece of genius by John. It is absolutely phenomenal. I'm loving every minute of it. I read like 100 pages last night. Slowed me down a little bit because I had Engineer Truth over for a week. He broke me off my nighttime reading, but I'm loving it, and I would recommend for everyone who's interested in software development, regardless of your career, to pick it up on Amazon. I have an affiliate link in the description below. You can help me and John out at the same time. All right, tip number 1 of the top 10 tips. All right, tip number 1 is have defined goals/skills that you plan to learn. A lot of times, one of the hardest things for you to do is to actually know what to learn, right? And so it's quite intimidating, especially in the world of web development, which I'm assuming most of you are interested in because that's where a ton of the jobs are. That you need to know what you need to learn, and before you can learn that stuff, you need to define the goal. So if you want to do front end development, you're gonna need to pick up HTML, CSS, JavaScript. A framework such as React. You're going to need to know version control. You should be familiar with testing. Maybe even dive into a little bit of agile methodologies if you really wanted to go the extra mile, right? Pick up some jQuery. These are things that you're going to have to know, period. And you need to have a goal. You need to have a set of skills that you say, okay, when am I ready to be a developer? When am I ready to start working as a developer? And you have your checklist. So that's what my first goal is for you, is go and define that checklist. So if you're not sure what that checklist should be, there's wonderful videos on these awesome coding channels like myself, or that you can go. But also what I do to know what I should learn and how I did it was I said, okay, I want to be a front-end engineer. That was my goal. I want to be a front-end engineer, and then maybe later I'll move to full stack. But full stack is farther down the road. How can I be a front-end engineer? I just went on Indeed. I went on LinkedIn, and I found out what the skills were when I typed in junior front-end engineer, and I saw what they were. And over and over and over again, these 10 things stood out. And then that was how I was like, okay, this is how I'm going to do it. I got to get these skills. Once I have these skills, they're going to want to hire me. That's how I looked at it, and it worked out quite well, and it can for you too. So that's my first tip, is go and define what those goals and skills are that you need to have for the role you're trying to get. Oftentimes, people just sort of wing it one thing at a time. No, you need a game plan. Go and start making that game plan. So tip number 2 is code every day. I will be screaming this from the mountaintops till the day the world burns and ends. But coding every day is something you have to do. And how many hours a day? 3 to 4 if possible. That is my go-to. Not really more. I don't discourage against more, but I think consistency is more important than the amount. I think if you do 7 days a week, 4 hours a day versus 8 hours every other day, I think you're going to have twice the return, because it is about just keeping it fresh in your mind and being able to start thinking differently every day and putting you in that thought process. So you're going to have to put the work in, right? A lot of us have kids. A lot of us have family obligations, job obligations. It's no excuse. You're going down a hard route, man. To learn software development is not something that's easy. It is something that you can do. A lot of people can do. Not everybody, but a lot of people can do. if they put the work in. And so you have to put the work in. And that's the truth of the matter. So you're going to have to put the time in. That's really tip number 2, is just expect to put in about 3 to 4 hours a day. Now, if I say that, and you think Dill's kidding, man. Dill doesn't really read that. Dill means like 30 minutes a day. No, let me be extremely clear. I fucking mean 3 to 4 hours a day until you have a fucking job. I can't make it any more clear than that. So if that sounds like an awful situation to you, this isn't for you. Self-taught route, it's going to be hard. All right? So just understand that's part of the process. So tip number 3, this is something that I didn't do when I first started, but tip number 3 is don't waste time when you're being blocked, when you're stuck. Don't force yourself to hammer away at that algorithm and waste a whole day making no progress. It could be that you've ran into something you're not quite ready for yet. That's all right. So I give the algorithm example because that's a mistake I have made, where I was like spending 8 hours on this one algorithm, when in reality what I needed to do was I needed to take a break from this specific problem. Say, well, Dylan, you said 3-4 hours a day. I can't take a break. No, you can. You just move on to something else, right? When you're stuck on an algorithm, you start a project. You go to a meetup. You do all these sort of other activities that you're still making progress, but you're not hammering away, making little to no progress on this one problem. Does it mean that you are giving up and abandoning that entirely? No. What it means is that you're giving your mind a break. The reason you can't solve it is because you're attacking it in the same way, or you may just not be ready. And so you're going to go and use your time productively. It's not productive to sit somewhere and make no progress. That doesn't mean that you go up and look up that solution or anything. I really advise against that. But what it does mean is that you go and use your time productively. So when you are blocked, take a break from that specific issue and go move on to something else. Build a project. You're blocked on that project, go and build another project. It really, the cool thing about software development is you're taking the abstract and making it concrete. So when you have abstract, you can make anything concrete, right? So you can take these ideas and you just build them. It doesn't matter. You started this project, you're halfway through, you got some stuff, I'll come back to it, start this other one and start knocking it out. Bam, bam, bam. Now, should you leave those projects half built? Should you not solve those algorithms? Absolutely not. But you need to be able to consistently make progress. And if you're spending hours upon hours just hammering away, wanting to solve something where you're clearly blocked, I highly encourage you just to move on and come back to it. So tip number 4, go to meetups. I'll say this till I am out of breath. Try and go to a meetup about once a week. Everyone's geographic location is slightly different, but meetups are an excellent resource for entry-level developers. When you do go to meetups, bring copies of your resume every single time. Make sure they're clean. Make sure they're crisp. Make sure your resume is excellent. There's no spelling mistakes. All your contact information is good. I have redone my resume about once every 3 months, redefining it, making it better. And you're probably going to need to do the same, if not more often, because you're going to be increasing so unbelievably rapidly as someone who started coding for 3 months. The developer you are at 3 months versus the developer you're at 6 months should be 3 times better. Not twice as good, but 3 times better, because you're getting up and running, and then those extra 3 months, bam, you are in your groove, right? If you've been sticking with it 4 hours every day. So you need to be updating that resume. You need to carry copies of it. Well, why do you carry copies to go to meetups? Well, not only are you going to learn at that meetup, maybe get some free clothes, like a free shirt, free pizza. Free is awesome, right? But also, companies are looking to hire, right? There is a shortage of good developers. Are there a shortage of bad developers? No. There is a lot of bad developers, which is why a lot of people can't get a job. And that's not to say like I'm the God tier. Like sometimes I jokingly call myself coding God, and some people think I'm like obsessed with myself. It's more so just humor, guys. Just being a little over the top. But what I'm trying to say is that companies are looking to hire good developers. Have your resume. Be willing to be able to talk very intelligently about the subject matter on your resume, and be able to introduce yourself to people who are hiring. Last meetup I went to, there's 3 companies. Before we started any of the talks, it was like, we're looking to hire, we're looking to hire, we're looking to hire. If you got these skills, come talk to us in the back. 3 different companies. This happens all the time. So I'd highly encourage you to start going to meetups and starting that. And so that's tip number 4. Tip number 5 is slightly related to tip number 4. start building that network, right? And this is something that's going to probably pay off later in life than sooner, but it can. So your network, you need to start meeting other developers, people in the space, project managers, recruiters, business analysts, full back-end developers, front-end developers. You need to start making these friendships, these connections, because you never know. You never know. Maybe in the short term, you've gone to some of these meetups, for instance, because a lot of times people are, well, I don't know anyone, Dylan. I work at Domino's delivering pizzas. Ain't no developers there, Dylan. Like, I get it. You got to go out of your way. One thing that I do when I say, hey, I want to move across country. I want to move to these 5 cities. What can I do? Well, I can start adding all the recruiters in that area for the companies that I want to work with, so that on LinkedIn, at the very least, when I see that they're posting, I can then reach out and say, hey, I saw that you had this job opening. I'd love to, throw my name in the candidate pool. I think I'm well qualified. Bam, bam, bam. Do that. You can also go to meetups, start meeting people. So, you start making these relationships, and then, an internship or junior level role comes out and say, hey, man, we're about to have this internship. Would you like to apply? I thought you'd be a good fit for it. These are the types of things that you can happen. And then later on, those relationships flourish like a flower. All right, flourish. And you're able to maybe get roles at larger companies. Everyone's progressing in their career. There's people I worked with 7 years ago that I just, worked a normal job with that now work at Google, right? And so that's a good connection to have. So you need to start building that network. So that's tip number 5. Tip number 6, side projects. Side projects. I have a whole video giving like 40 ideas or something like that for side projects to get the juices flowing. But side projects are a great way to show that you have the characteristics of a developer that a company is looking to hire. You are building something of your own, right? You are building something from scratch that no one else has built, or and when I say side projects, I'm not talking about building a calculator or a weather application. I'm talking about building your own web application. It doesn't have to be super technical. It oftentimes doesn't even have to be you actually writing code. Now, most of the time it will be. My best side project, I said this a million times, is my coding channel, my YouTube channel, because it shows what we're looking for. It shows that you're passionate, interested, and oftentimes that you're technical. Even though I'm not anymore doing too many tutorials, I still do my Udemy courses I build, and I'm always building little fun things, learning new stuff. But in terms of my channel, I'm mainly just talking about things. But what it shows is that you're passionate, you're working towards it, and that you're progressing as a developer. And that's what your side projects do. They show that you, not only do they give you a portfolio item, but they give you some direction to continue learning. You say, okay, well, I want to add authentication to my app now. How do I do that? And now you continue your learning progress with this portfolio item. It also just shows a little bit about you as your personality, which is more important than a lot of people give themselves credit to. So please start building side projects. It's going to be the thing that really makes you stand out above other developers. That's really what this whole list is about, is making sure not only that you're prepared, but you stand out and that you are a developer that when they look at the stacks of resume, because they will have a stack of resume, that your resume pops out a little bit more because of how unique you are. So number 7, I think. Number 7 is use your experience to your advantage, the old domain knowledge. So what does that mean? What does domain knowledge mean? Well, a lot of times, if you're watching this video, a good portion of you are leaving a job or trying to leave a job that you either don't love anymore, or you never loved, and you want to just have a better career, have a better life. And so you're coming from these places where there's not really any relevance, right? If you're a cashier or a pizza delivery driver like I was, there's not too much that you can relate there, right? But on the chances that you can, use that to your advantage. So one of the things that will make you stand out as a junior developer is they're much more likely to hire you if you have experience in their industry or knowledge about the domain knowledge of how things run. And so one job search technique you could have is start applying to roles where it's relevant, right? My last work, the coworker got his very first start. It was a military contracting company. He was ex-military, thus he had domain knowledge of what their industry was about, which was one of the reasons he got the job. And so it's one of the few times that I would suggest putting your previous experience on the resume. So in my example, I have like 5 years delivering pizzas. You could say I'm a pizza industry expert at this point. All jokes aside, if I was one thing I actually actively did was I went and I made a resume specifically designed for applying to software roles in the pizza space, in the food delivery space. And I had a resume specifically designed to that, and I applied to junior level roles at all these companies. It didn't work out for me, but it does for a lot of people. So I encourage you to take your domain experience and at least put some of your time towards having a custom resume in that space, as well as, like, if you work at Home Depot and you're trying to make a transition, there's a ton of construction companies that need, web developers and things like that you could go and apply to jobs like that and have your resume catered to that. So I encourage you to use that. So number 8 is read the right books and use the right materials. At the start of this video, I did a little self-promo / affiliate link, right, for the Complete Software Developer's Career Guide, which, again, there's a link in the description. Honestly, this has been the best software book I've ever read, which is one of the only ones I've ever read. But one thing that I would suggest, when I say read the right books, I don't encourage you to read books that are on actual coding. I think that's a waste of your time. I think you'll have a much better time reading books that are more soft skill related, more change your mentality about software development, which is why I like this book so much. It actually gives you a lot of very specific examples of how to go and get what you want. None of this sort of over the top. I will say that you probably won't like it if you don't like hard work, because a lot of the things suggested are hard work in it and aren't immediate get rich quick schemes. But use the right materials. What does it mean? Just make sure you're learning the right stuff, right? And from the right people. Sometimes we always want to skip paying for stuff, but courses are relatively cheap. You can buy a course for $10, $15 and learn everything you need to know, and then go and apply that, right? So this is something that I think that you just need to make sure that you're not wasting your time with the wrong books, is kind of it. I know a lot of times people really are over the top with, I have to read these books to be successful. Not necessarily. This is, I've had 2 software jobs. This is the first book I've read. I actually wish I read it so much sooner. I would have learned so much more, and I would be so much farther ahead in my career, without a doubt. But I have 4 other books that I've queued up, such as Cracking the Coding Interview, Clean Code. These are all things I'll do reviews on eventually. But basically, just read the right books and use the right materials in terms of courses that you're going to be doing online. So number 9 is this is kind of like a 3-part number 9. So continue learning after your first job. Now you've got the job. All right, congratulations. If you did these first 8, you probably got a job. No. Continue learning. Be willing to potentially job hop, and I'll explain why. And circle back to the principles, the writing clean code, the what is REST, what is solid. Because a lot of times, and oftentimes I've been a victim of this, where I don't know these sort of technical terms. Like, if you explain to me what they are, I can go and I can review them, and I could go and yeah. So you're talking about, single responsibility or whatever it is. The point being that as a self-taught developer, there's some principles that you're going to miss out on, right? This doesn't mean that as a computer science graduate, you're not going to have these either, but there are principles of writing code that you may not even know exist. And it's up to you to go and continue your education in that. And so on the principles aspect, there's also the continue learning after you're getting your first role. You need to, those 3 to 4 hours, that doesn't stop when you land a role. Now, will your learning be more catered? Of course, for the first 3 to 4 months, you're going to be learning the stack at your work. But after you learn that stack, I would highly suggest you sit and you look at your workplace 6 to 7 to 9 months out and say, am I still growing here as a developer? Because oftentimes your first role, this isn't for everybody, but oftentimes your first role, you're going to sort of be a bottom of the barrel thing. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, because you're still going to be growing. But are you when you stop growing at a workplace, you need to 1, leave. 2, leave for more money. 3, leave for a lot more money. All right. So, but honestly, you need to evaluate if you're at the company, are you still growing? Are you still learning? And if you're not, you need to reevaluate where you're at, because it is so crucial for you to keep growing as a developer to get to those massive companies with the big salaries and the extra benefits. But really, it's going to be boring and dry, and you're not going to like it. So I would encourage you to continue your learning outside of work, and then when your work dries up in terms of learning, because a lot of you are going to start with some maybe basic jobs. Not that there's anything wrong with that. We've all been there. But consider job hopping for more money, as well as a better work environment, as well as just to learn more. And then circle back to the principles of writing clean code and concepts that maybe you've skipped over. And this is number 10, the Mac Daddy, the one that everyone's going to ignore, the one that people are going to not spend as much time as they should. Prepare for interviews. And I'm not just talking about technical interviews. You got to prepare for a technical interview. Otherwise, everyone in that room is going to be awkward. Everyone hates that guy who shows up to the technical interview. You have him write a for loop on the board, and he's like, oh shit, I don't know what a for loop is right now. And then it's just awkward, right? Don't be that guy. Nobody wants to be that guy. The guy who's writing the for loop doesn't want to be that guy. The people in that room who's watching you not write a for loop don't want to be there either. So prepare for your technical interviews. That's a given, right? Also prepare for your soft interviews. Know what you're going to say. Know how phone interviews are going to go. Know how you're going to pitch yourself. Know what you're going to say in terms of certain questions, right? If you're interviewing for a front end role, you should be, if someone asks you what, the main HTTP verbs are, you should be able to say get, post, put, delete, just basic things for the technical phone screen. If you're going at the end of every interview, they ask questions like, hey, do you have any questions for me? Have at least one question. Have a go-to question. I have a go-to question. I'm not going to share it with you. No, I will. My go-to question, and this is something that's very true, is I want to know if they have any side projects, because I am interested in developers who are getting better. And to me, side projects mean that I want to work with passionate developers. That is always has been my goal. And so that is the question I ask, because honestly, until I meet the developers, they're just trying to sell you on a workplace, and you'll never really know if you're a good place or not until you're actually there and the people you work with directly. So prepare for your interviews, the soft interviews and the technical interviews. And it's going to take a lot of time. For my last role, I prepared for about 3 months, doing about 100 algorithms and redoing my resume, redoing my LinkedIn, when I knew that I was going to start going on to the next endeavor, the next adventure, right? So it is a lot of hard work. And I think that's kind of what this list is hard work. And just working smart, right? And so I hope you found this helpful. Again, I think these are the things that made me successful. For the most part, I did probably about 8 out of 10 of these when I made the jump to like, okay, I'm dropping out of school. This is not enough. I will go the self-taught route. I can do it. And these were the things that I had to stick to that made my life easier, and things that I, for the most part, still pretty much do every single day. So I hope you found this helpful, whether you're self-taught or whether you are a traditional educated. You're really going to have to be self-taught in this industry. That's just the way that it goes. Even if you have a master's or a PhD, you have a PhD, you may never have touched whatever you're going to work at in life, so you're going to have to learn it. Learning doesn't stop after you get a job is one thing that I just really want to stress, and I hope that you take that to heart, because I've seen too many developers go get their first job, and now they're making much more money than they were making before, but they're in the same role doing the same thing, building restaurant websites or something like that. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but my goal has always been to make sure that the developer I am a year from now is twice the developer I am today. And so I hope that you guys try and take the same mentality. But thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, share, support me on Patreon, all that good stuff. I'll see you guys next time. Bye. Hey, baby, do you have any tips to be a good self-taught developer?
Yeah, you need to have a super supportive, awesome girlfriend like me.
Okay, baby. Quick thank to our sponsor, DevicePlus.com. If you guys are interested in Arduino and the Internet of Things, such as Raspberry Pis, Might I recommend checking them out at deviceplus.com. If you click the link in the top corner, it'll take you to a really cool thing. It's an intro beginner level tutorial of how to build a tripwire using Arduino. Check it out.